full of creatine, so it's probably like not good, but you know.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the YouTube stream to go live, and then oh, there we go.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. Cool.
Alrighty. So I'm Michael Renchert. I am the. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Got you.
Okay, cool. I'm Michael Renchert. I'm the executive director of Wildcat Watch, and Wildcat Watch is just a video production service for campus. It's all student run, along with our helpful advisor Tyler Traxon out of the communications and marketing department. And today we're meeting with James Rico, a K-State and Wildcat Watch alum in 2010. And he is a director of Real Goats, and he works with, he produces videos for DaBaby and Chance the Rapper. And yeah, he's just going to talk to us about creative storytelling and his process, and it should be a good time. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to James. Oh, real quick, if there's any other K-State or Wildcat Watch alum watching on YouTube, feel free to reach out to us if you have fun projects or something like that you want to talk about. We'd love to have you on this sort of platform as well. So go ahead, James.
Sweet. Well, I appreciate you guys. Wildcat Watch was something that a good friend of mine and Tyler had started back when I was attending K-State. So it's really cool to see that it's still going. And I always loved Wildcat Watch because it was something on campus that felt like you could try something other than journalism. And I think that that's really cool that you guys still have it around, and you guys should definitely just continue to push each other and to that. You guys are like the filmmaking thing for K-State, you know. I'm not sure if it's changed at all. Has it changed at all in terms of programming? Do you guys have new programming there? Or
no, it's pretty much the same. We still do all the live events and promotional videos and stuff like that.
Right. But do you guys get involved in like filmmaking competitions? You guys do?
Yeah, every spring we do a 48-hour film fest. Mm-hmm. We couldn't do it last year because coronavirus, but hopefully this year it'll be back up and running.
That's really cool. So yeah, I mean those are great things that you guys have to for sure continue to do, because it helps people more than you think, especially because there is really no outlet, you know, to express it. So you know, you guys could do whatever you want with it, and that's a great thing, is you could take it and shape it however you want. If you're doing too much of one thing, you know, have fun and try to come up with new ideas and evolve it, you know. So take advantage of that. Well, a little bit about myself for anybody that doesn't know. I'm James Rico. I'm one of the founders of Real Goats, alongside of my brother and a good friend, Jim and I. And we make music videos. We're in video production. We do a lot of work with DaBaby. That's what we were known for this past year. We had a really great year with him. He was incredible. We had this great faith in each other, and we went out and just were crazy pretty much, you know, and we just made things and we created content. We stayed busy, and we just kept working through everything and created what you see now is DaBaby, if you follow him. So it's really cool to have been a part of it and to see it from the groundwork up. Many years, I started back in 2012 when I was freelancing. So for about 7 years, I was doing everything, trying everything with video, stuff from shooting sports at Kansas State University to shooting a couple of times for the Kansas City Chiefs to doing local music videos, small business, wedding videos. I was doing all that in Kansas before I decided to like go ahead and get out of Kansas and you know, I need to go to Los Angeles and try this because I feel like, you know, I'm capable of it. So, you know, going out there, we took a lot of risks and we created something really cool, which is Real Goats, and we're going to still keep evolving and keep growing. And it's a really beautiful thing to watch it happen. So that's a little bit about me. Today, we're going to talk about, you know, team building. We're going to talk about the creative process, you know, writing and storytelling, running, and then the opposite side of that, where it's like more run and gun and you're in the field and you're like trying to figure it out on the spot. You know, how do you go about making sure that you execute well under those circumstances too? And then lastly, we'll talk about like finding your journey. You see that I grew up in Wichita, Kansas. This is my brother. and Spicy Rico, who's a part of Real Goats. So you see that, you know, it's kind of cool to be able to work with somebody, you know, that is your family, and it's not easy. It's always difficult because you are brothers and you butt heads as brothers, you know, but then in the end, you got to respect the fact that it's so beautiful to be able to do that with somebody that's so close to you. So graduated from K-State in 11, started with a bachelor's in social science, digital journalism, and psychology. I got stuck there. I went to school much longer than I should have, you know, but I was taking like short hours, 8 hours at a time. I went there in 07, and it took me a while to get done with it. I started college early, like I want to say I started in 05, and at Butler County Community College. I went to school there and I attended that. I took a year off and got into the K-State program for football. I started doing really cool things with Butler County, editing for them. And that's where it started, like just wanting to edit. And I just like desperately requested to go to K-State. Like that's the only thing I knew, you know. That's the only advice that I had is like go to K-State if you want to do video. And because I had friends from from high school, teachers from high school saying they knew people from there and they knew the editing department and they said they're really great. So I just tried my hardest to get there, and I eventually got accepted to work for the football program. And that's what really drove me to go to Kansas State. And then after that, all the other great things started happening while I was there. In 2016 was kind of roughly, you know, after when I started freelancing, I worked many years by myself and another friend of mine from Kansas State. We worked really hard to try to figure out how to make it work. You know, so very early I was trying to build a team, but it just never really actually happened. You know, I was trying to build something with people, but it just wouldn't work out. So a lot of times I'd find myself working alone for 3 or 4 years. But then I eventually came across my brother and another guy named JR. Both of them were early members. You know, we were a team, but we didn't really know what we were just yet. You know, we were working together, making cool music videos, and I was, you know, taking them around the country at this point. We were meeting people and traveling all over. I was touring with a band, and you know, I started to learn how to just be a better cinematographer, a better videographer, you know, a better someone that really understood how to just kind of live life and what that meant and all these things. Didn't make a lot of money, you know, took a lot of risks, right? And while this was happening, we started to understand that we had to get out of Kansas, right? Every person we met was always asking us where we were from, and we'd say Kansas City, and they were like, well, that's your problem. You know, you need to get out of Kansas and you need to go to a bigger market. No matter what that market is, you got to get out of there if you want to do something bigger than what is in front of you right now. And I think it's more the case that there's more opportunities for you in other places. It's not necessarily that Kansas is a bad place. It's just that you're going to have a larger opportunity when you go outside of it. You're going to have more opportunities, and you could fail more often, and you get more experience quicker, you know. But the things that I loved about Kansas that really helped me become what I am is the values that I learned, the hard work that I learned, you know, being grateful for the things that are in front of me. All those things really matter in the end, and how hard you work once the light is shining on you. When we got out to LA, you know, we had a crazy little time. I'll show you this real quick before I get into that story. I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but hopefully you can. It's a trailer here. Just some of the work that we did prior to moving to LA. Sorry, prior to DaBaby. So that was something that we did back in, that was something that we did, that I put together back in 2018. That was all these great things that started happening to us from 2016 to 2018. We were starting to get hired and traveling internationally. All the hard work that we put in when we got there, things just started happening the way that we wanted them to, because we were always putting in some kind of work every day, no matter what it was. And even if we weren't hired, we'd be working on ourselves, we'd be growing, we'd be getting better, we would go do skits, we would do just whatever we could while we were there. And we would get booked just ever so often, right? But then those jobs that we booked, we really cared about. We really like try to make sure that we did a great job at it, you know, because it's our portfolio. You can't just go out there and start making things, and eventually you have to take yourself serious enough to, you know, make sure that you're proud of your work and make sure that you're accountable for the work that you do. And through that, you start to build the team. I say search for the real goats. It's like you eventually, if you're kind of try to build something, you know, if you want to build a business, or if you want to, you know, have your own team in the future, any creatives out there, I think it's important that you be patient with your team building, like finding your believers, finding the people that really have the same vision as you, you know, and just understand that there's going to be people that don't have the vision like you. So they might not hang around for a long time, and that's okay. But they will get you to a place where you've learned from each other, and then you might separate ways, and then later down in the line, you'll find them again. So it's really important that when you do come across the believers that believe in you, you understand that they're there for your support. So for me, like I had a very few people. It was my brother and this JR. And when we went out to LA, we had $1,000 in our pocket. We were crazy as hell. We packed up a van of U-Haul and just like headed out there to go work, you know, on a pilot show. And these are things that, like, there's no guarantee that it's gonna go well, you know, but we just had some kind of weird faith that it was gonna work out. It was like naive as hell to just say like, we're gonna go out there and make it, you know, but it was just a mission. I think we had proven ourselves too much in the local area that we had to go do something else. So, and that was our leap of faith. Yes, and make the leap of faith. You have to decide when you make that leap of faith. You have to decide, you know, when it's right for you. And most of the time, there's never a right time. They always say, like, when you're trying to have kids, there's never a right time to have kids, right? It's the same thing with your career. It's the same thing with, you know, if you want to achieve something greater, or like spend money or buy a car, or, you know, invest in yourself somehow. There's never a right time to do it. You know, the longer you wait to do it, the longer it's going to take you to get it. So just understand that leap of faith can happen at any point in your life when you decide to pull, you know, that trigger and run off the cliff, dive. Don't worry if you have the parachute, you know, and you'll come to find that you'll figure a lot of those issues out that are going to come your way. I feel like most of the time it's the reason why we're being stopped is because we're trying to find the answers before the answers are in front of us, right? There's no answer, right? You have to figure it out. And that's what problem solving is. That's what education's about, to teach you how to problem solve. Because you're going to come up with all these things that you can never study. You can never be ready for it. It's just not possible. You know, you could learn from the textbook and then try to apply it, but I guarantee you it's not going to be the same. So practicing the art of it and holding yourself accountable to the art of it is very important. One thing that I started to realize this past year was the business side of the art. For many years, I focused not on the money, but I focused on the opportunity. And I just focused on opportunities and opportunities and opportunities. And that's all I wanted, you know, and that's all I cared about. So the business side wasn't really important to me because I knew that my search was going towards something greater than what was being offered to me right then and there. So a lot of times I would take jobs that I wasn't supposed to take. I would work for free. I would work for under the rate that I was valued at, but I didn't let it bother me. You know, I just was like, cool, whatever. I was just happy to be able to do it, right? To say like, look, I'm going to create this cool thing. I'm going to put it out there and maybe someone's going to see it, right? And that's all I cared about. I didn't know who was going to see it or when. It was just, I felt like as long as I just kept creating. So this past year, I've been focused more on the business side, and I won't touch about it too much, but there is some kind of, at some point you got to figure out that what your business model is. And for people that are trying to figure it out, it's more about like how you envision the company being ran, like every position. So you have to learn positions in your company before you know how they're supposed to be ran. So it's very important that when studying a video production business or a video production company or photography company, you understand like how you can expand it, how the other people that you're going to need around you to help run it, because it's not just going to be you. For maybe the early years, it's just going to be you, but eventually, if you really want to turn it into something special, you're going to have to figure out that business side of it, which is essentially how you see your business being ran, meaning like how you want people to answer your phones, how you want them to respond to your calls, or sorry, your emails, how you want to, pay people out, how you want to handle getting paid, how you deal with customers that are rude, stuff like that. Bad clients versus good clients. How do we talk to all clients? And those are things that you work on with your business, and efficiencies and organization. It's very important. Something that we personally work on all the time, to be better communication, be better at our organization, because the stronger we are at it, the better we will be as a creative, because now we'll have everything where we need it to do the creative part. So that's why I said developing a systematic process for approaching small and large projects. You have to develop your own process of what that looks like to handle a small project versus a big project. Because you're not always going to get big projects. You get a handful of you get much more small projects than big ones until you get to a certain level. And then you'll start getting bigger projects more often, but they're not always going to be there. So it's up to you to figure out what that process is, and to find that team that's going to do that with you, and they're going to believe in it with you. The pictures below are my brother, Spicy, the one you saw me with my hand around. The one next to it is Gemini. And the one next to that is Shaq and Gemini together. And these are people that my brother, he was a salesman before he was in this industry. He started late, just like me. I started when I was 27, 28, turned to taking it serious. I'm 36 now. My brother, he started 4 years after me, and he came in to help me more with the producing, and I had to teach him about, production, and he found a passion in it. Gemini is someone that reached out to me, and he really was just trying to help us out. It's like, hey, he's from Charlotte. He knew about me in the Charlotte area. He was a young videographer, and trying to get into it. He was only, I don't remember his age exactly, maybe 19, when I first met him, 19 or 20. And he reached out and was just he had came out to LA one day with an artist that we worked with, Dinero Farrar. And, Dinero wanted me to work with him for a couple of weeks. He's going to be out there for a little while and train him. And so I was like, sure. After doing those couple of weeks, he hit me back and he was like, hey, I really want to come work for you guys, All right, cool. So he flew out, he lived with us, and he stayed in my closet for, I think 2 months. He slept in my closet. There's a little documentary about him on our YouTube page you can check out, but it's really cool. It was like when he first came to us, I was like, this is crazy. Like, we have this guy living in our closet, and he just wants to make things. And so he showed extreme interest in trying to help grow with us. And he learned so much this past year, and as well as myself, and like how to work and grow and learn together as a team. So he's been incredible to watch, going from not know how to set exposure or framing to now he's doing all the content you see with DaBaby. Anything you see of DaBaby on Instagram is him making those pieces and it's incredible. So shout out him. Shaq is also from K-State. So another alumni. Well, I think he had 1 month to go. So honorary alumni. All right. So one thing that one thing that I love to talk about, I think I like to focus on with other creatives is that idea of what is creativity, how do you find it, right? And then how do you listen to it? Because that's something that many of us sit there for hours. I do it really. I just sit and I just stare sometimes for 3 or 4 hours, and I literally just like I'm sitting in the same spot, just like, you know, trying to figure out what I want to think about in terms of my idea, and I'm playing around with things in my head, and eventually I land on something that I really love. So these are some tips that I would say, you know, explore and try to see if they work for you. They may not, but this is something that I think is beneficial for me at least. I like to brainstorm by myself in the beginning stages of ideas. I think it's important that if you do have a team or you do have people you like to brainstorm with, that you save that to after you start your own, right? Get your thoughts together, get your collective thoughts and your reasons together, because they're going to ask you reasons for your ideas. And if you can't figure out why you want to do it, then they're not going to listen to you, you know, and they're going to combat your idea. And then you might just give up on it because you didn't have an answer for it, right? Or you have to learn, you know, sorry, I'll come back to that thought. But brainstorm alone. And then after brainstorming, I think then, you know, make sure you have it all written out on some kind of paper or notes or Google Doc, or there's really no excuse to why you shouldn't have things written down. You know, you can't keep everything up here. It's impossible, right? You have too many things going on in your head. So it's really important that you practice that art. We take it to the team after this. It's you get together and you talk about all the good ideas, all the bad ideas, you know, what sucks, what's amazing. And you just get rid of the things that are not working, right? And just be honest with your guys' selves. It's always dependent on like how well you guys get together, or how well you guys work together, you know, whether or not that conversation lasts a long time. If you're all really good at working and collaborating, you should just keep letting it happen. Don't put a timestamp on it necessarily, if you don't have to, you know. But if at some point you are getting busier and busier, then you have to start putting timestamps on your ideas. We have 1 hour to figure this out. You know, we have 2 hours to figure this out, and that's it. And that's what you see a lot in like 48-hour film competitions. You have to like figure out quickly what you want to do and then go out and do it. Well, that's not always going to be the case with like the projects you do, but there are instances where you have to turn it around that soon. So, you know, setting deadlines is important when brainstorming, if you can. But in the beginning stages, when you're young, I think just let the conversations just end on their own naturally. I think at that point, it's really good to step away again, take all the ideas and start to build your story, see which ideas connect to what. You'll start to realize, you know, your ideas are going to start making sense. You know, you wanting to have a scene where, you know, a guy comes into a coffee shop and orders hot coffee and spills it on himself. You know, maybe that's one central idea. And then there's another idea in your head where, you know, he's crossing the sidewalk and steps, you know, in shit or something, you know, like he's stepping in, he's stepping into a puddle or whatever. You have these two separate ideas and you're trying to figure out how to connect them, you know, in the early stages, but just hold on to them if you see them, you know, and then figure out how you can connect those dots. Eventually you'll figure it out. Making drafts isn't super important. Writing drafts is something that, like, if you're not a writer, you have to understand that writing is something that develops just like editing. You edit and re-edit and re-edit and re-edit. When it comes to videography and video and photos, you tweak. Same thing with writing. It's the exact same thing. You know, you have an idea and you keep reworking it. That's why you have in English class like peer-to-peer revision, and the teacher looks at it and gives you advice and all that stuff. And that's what you have to continue to do, because it'll make you stronger as a writer. And at some point you have to let go of your ego. Like I say, be honest with yourself. Like there's an ego thing here. oh, my writing is just like too good. These people don't understand. Like you can't be like that. You have to just be very open and honest with yourself and say, okay, I get it. I'm learning and I have more opportunities down the line to be even better. So I shouldn't hold this too close to my heart, you know. After you're done with finding your story, you're finding your script, you know, if you guys are not familiar with script writing, there's some really great programs called Studio Binder. There's, I think, Screen Magic Writer. There's Final Cut Draft. These are all really great programs to practice actual traditional script writing. So though it takes the ease out of like the interior, you know, night, location, and all these like cumbersome things you have to think about when developing your script. You don't have to think about it. It does it for you and you just write. So great programs to look at if you don't have any that you're using right now. When you make a treatment, this is something I'll show you. InDesign is something that's really great. You should start to learn it. You know, you should have a treatment and you fill it in, right? If you don't know InDesign, then check it out. But essentially fill in all these pages. If you've never seen a treatment before, then you know what? Let's look at one. How about that? As we're looking at some secret things. Secrets. So here's a treatment of bop. You know, most people know it's from bop, but this is what the treatment looked like visually. You know, we have this, you see kind of like this energy and theme that we're going for. We talk about where we want to do it. You know, we start talking about the synopsis of it, you know, what the general theme and thought process is of it. And then you start to talk about more in, you know, your scene breakdowns and all these things that matter to you, right? And you have fun with it, right? You write your treatment to make it feel like you want it to see, like how you see it in your head. Be very accurate, you know, describe things. You see something. As far as page numbers, you know, this one has 18. There's no set number of pages that you have to do. You could do 4, you could do 6, as long as your idea gets you pushing you out there. Sorry, as long as your idea is getting translated across to the next person across from you, the person that you're working with, your DP, your art director, your gaffer, makeup artist, wardrobe, all these people that are really important into executing your idea. This is what it's for. You're trying to communicate to them so they see it, right? And they're like, oh, okay, I understand. That's the purpose of it. And it's very important. It's very important that you practice that art, even on small projects, right? The making and developing of it, because you'll come to find the things that you get out of it is, you know, execution is better. I say all that to say, you know, be open for it all to change. You know, you worked really hard on your idea. You really struggled to figure it out. And then all of a sudden it's something different than what you imagined, right? And it could be like that. But I think it's a decision on whether or not your execution was poor versus the idea didn't work, right? Like you actually executed well, but the idea, the conception, the creative actually is not working, right? This is something similar to what Bop did. The scene you see in Bop was like the last take that we had from the day. We had a 14-hour day and we shot all these other scenes. And, you know, in edit, we were gonna have 2 versions, the one take and one where there was a bunch of other cuts in it and more development. But as I was editing it, I realized quickly that it didn't have the same energy and feeling as the one take. And so because of this, we decided not to use it. It was like, we shouldn't even put it out because it's going to change the perception of the song. You know, we're thinking on a much bigger scale of how people take in the media. And we just trusted our gut on that and then went with it. So I think that's important to understand, to be open for the change, because it could have not had the same impact as this one take, you know? So be open for it to change, and it's okay, because your film is always developing. It's always, you know, it's always changing. So let it change. So what I just talked about was really kind of for when you're trying to build bigger ideas, you know, when you're trying to really express bigger thoughts, and you're starting to get more into budgeted, you know, productions, and you have to really uphold, you know, the talent you have. You can't go into a production not knowing what you want. So in the bigger grand scheme of things. So you should, those are processes that you do every time, but not always will you have the time. So, you know, last year early on, we were doing so much shooting that we did like you know, people call it run and gun or guerrilla style. And I think there's some things you can think about when doing run and gun that will help you in the bigger, in the end, in the edit. You know, a lot of times run and gun happens because you don't have a budget, or it's last minute, or you know, it's just the way that your job forces you to create content faster and faster and faster and faster. You know, a lot of times people don't, some people want it so fast because they care more about the content than they do about the quality of it. So that's gonna probably happen several times to you in your life, but find that balance of how much can you do on a run and gun to make it look amazing, right? Every time, and it looks like a real production, it feels like a real production, but you had to do it quickly. So some of the things that I suggest are like keeping the ideas simple. Don't have such a large idea. Don't have all these extra scenes, these locations that you got to get when you don't have the money to do it. You don't have the energy, you have the time to do it. So don't put more on your plate than you need to. Get it a good balance of it where you think you know it's accomplishable, but you'll sorry, but you won't be unhappy with the idea, right? And for safety, have a couple extra scenes that you want to do, a couple extra things you want to do if time does permit, you know. But for the most part, try to keep your ideas executable. That's the main thing. One important thing that you will start to learn is trusting your crew, encouraging them, making sure they believe in themselves as much as you believe in them, you know, because they are the ones helping you make it. And I say your crew, it could be 3 people, it could be 2 people, it could be 30, 40 people, you know, 100, 200. But regardless of what it is, run and gun's not gonna be that big, but in general, you should always trust your crew, and you should have good people around you, and you should be encouraging them to do better and to hold themselves accountable. You should treat people with respect, and you shouldn't talk down to anybody on set that's below you, a freshman, a sophomore. It doesn't matter for your guys' case. If you're a senior, you look at a freshman and you want to help him get better, because it's important that they get better. If they get better, your whole production gets better, right? So look, when someone's struggling, go up to them. Hey, what do you need help with, right? Oh, okay, cool. You know how to set up a C-stand? Great. This is how you do it, you know? Boom, show them how to raise everything, how to collapse it, put it down. Okay, now you try it. And you work with them, take the time to do like 3 or 4 minutes of education, you know, on set, if you know more than somebody. And if you don't, if you're one of those people that are just starting out, then ask questions. You know, people will give you the benefit of the doubt if you don't ask a question. They're gonna think you know until you say, I don't. So a lot of times, even now, when people talk to me, I'll just say, oh, shit, I don't know. Maybe we should ask this person, you know? And we become collaborative in that sense. So it's really, it's definitely something that I get upset when I do see people mistreating others on set. It's sad, and it does happen. And people get belittled, people make fun of each other, and it can make confidence, you know, reduce quite a bit, especially for someone starting out. I think Some other advice would be, using your resources to take big ideas and make them small. That could be as simple as, someone that owns a corner store, someone that works at a gas station, someone that owns a certain type of car, or they own a camera, or they're makeup artists, or they do cool paintings, and you take all those people that you've met in your life and you reach out to them and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. Right. And try to make your production bigger than it is, and ask for favors, and make sure that you're not asking too much, but you're kind of give and take, right? Give and take. When you're doing run and gun, it's very important you don't think too technical, because this will slow you down when it comes to executing your idea. The technical part of it is like, how does the camera work? Or like how is my lighting, or how is, what camera am I using, or what lenses am I using, or do I have a drone, or do I have a Steadicam, and do I have a gimbal? These are technical things, and it's important you know how to execute with them. But if you try to be too technical, if you're a nerd gearhead, and you're really obsessed with gear, that will slow you down, because you're always going to say, well, I don't have this, or I don't have that. And you will be too focused on it. And it's like, well, why? You can take a phone nowadays and shoot the same thing that you can with an Alexa Mini or a Red. And depending on what stage you're at, you can make a camera look just as good. Right, a phone look as good as a Red, if you are really practicing, and you're really using it uniquely. There's movies out there that are all shot on GoPros. There's an entire film on Netflix that was shot on an iPhone and like a gimbal. So there's no reason why you should think technical when it comes to run and gun. You should let your mind go free a little bit and have more fun about how you move your characters. The space that you use. These are better things to focus on. The lighting, lighting is super important to learn. If you don't understand lighting, that's one thing you should start to try to learn, because it's what makes us, when you take a photo and you're like, well, where's the lighting? Like nowadays, people like look for the lighting to get the beautiful lighting. Like, okay, here it is, and you can focus. If the iPhone has made more people probably filmmakers than they think. They're used to it from IG. They're used to it from TikTok. They're used to taking photos and posing for their friends. So a lot of people understand how to use it, right? So just focus on things that are more about how you move yourself than the actual camera. I say cover more than you want, which is mean just overshooting. If you have a close-up, make sure you get your wide. If you have a wide, make sure you get a close-up. Right? Don't walk away knowing that you don't have enough. You want cutting points. You want to be able to cut from a wide to a medium to a close-up. If you can get all three, great, right? But if you can't, then choose the one that makes the most sense. But push yourself to cover more than you want, because in edit, you will find what your story's supposed to be. Again, just like writing, editing is something that will change your entire video from being something really amazing to something that looks like shit. And it could be that easy, because it don't matter how well you shot. It doesn't matter how well it was shot. It doesn't matter how good the actors are. If you don't focus on the edit, then it's not gonna be anything, So the learning of editing, if you don't edit right now, I implore you to figure out how to edit, or at least know the simple tools. Like, it's not really that difficult to learn Premiere or Final Cut Pro. There's plenty of programs out there that are also free that you can learn. But if you understand editing when you're on set as a director, as a DP, you can actually piece it together in your head and say, okay, this shot is going to work with this shot, right? So you have to have that understanding of editing, and you should always practice it, because you'll see what works and you'll see what doesn't. With all that being said, I would say then remember to have fun. I think having fun is something that is, it's like sometimes you get too caught up in the seriousness of what your film is, or like, you know, how serious a production could be or mean to you. And you forget that you're really there because you love film or you love video. And that's really what's going to drive the most entertainment out of you. You know, the strongest decisions. If you're smiling on set versus being upset, you'll make better decisions. You know, so try to calm yourself. It's very important to control your emotions and be calm, and to think about, I'm grateful for being here. And that attitude is really what changes, you know, the outcome of the video. If your crew's pissed off, if you're pissed off, if you're grumpy, it's just like putting love into food. You know, you can taste bad food is because someone didn't put love in it. So it's the same thing as bad movies. Bad movies, and you guys, I'm sure, have watched plenty, you know, and you've maybe made bad ones, you know, but it's because there wasn't enough love there. It wasn't enough like thought, and that's it. That's all you have to do. I like to try to wrap up a lot of conversation with, you know, no matter what you learn and where you're at in your life, no matter what occupation you choose, you have to figure out what your passion is, and you have to hold on to it. I think that's what really drove me the whole time, is like finding that passion. And your passion could be writing, your passion could be lighting, your passion could be cameras, your passion could be editing, your passion could be coloring, it could be news journalism. It could be, you know, it could be being a doctor or accountant later. I don't know. But regardless of what it is, you have to figure that out, and only you can make that decision. You know, nobody can tell you what you want to be but yourself. And you are the only one that really knows what you want to be. Only you. You know, not your parents, not your friends. They don't know what's good for you. You know, your loved ones will put fear onto you because they're afraid of you making a mistake. Whereas, you know, if you listen to those fears inside saying maybe you're not ready, it's only because you're not, you know, you're not ready, and you have to work on being ready. You know, there's this great quote I saw a long time ago. It says, pay attention to life, you have to recreate it. And I could never understand what that meant for the longest time, as like me wanting to learn film. And I eventually it was as simple as what it says. And it's because I started actually doing it and recreating it, and like, okay, this lighting doesn't look natural, or this movement or this acting doesn't look natural to what is real emotion, what is real stories, you know? So K-State, when I was there, I learned mostly about stories than I did about cameras, how to write a story, how to tell a story. And I think that's why I am the way I am, in terms of how I like to create my videos, because I focus on it. And it's something that has made my work stand out. But I think when you watch anybody that tells stories, you know, good storytelling is what you pay attention to. You know, good movies with entertainment movies with good stories is like the ultimate for people. You know, movies like Inception or Christopher Nolan movies, you know, Jordan Peele movies, Tarantino movies, you know, these things have a great combination of you know, storytelling and entertainment value, right? So you're learning both as a viewer, like what that means. They're recreating life. Everything feels so real. Everything feels so original. You know, it feels like you're in their universe, because they recreated a universe. They made a universe for you to believe in, right? But the only way you can do that is by a few things. I think traveling 100% makes you tuned to the world in the way that you should be. We shouldn't live an entire life and not see another country, at least one, right? Or have not seen half the states in the US. You're in the US. There's people that are trying to come to the US to live here and to grow and to be amazing, and we're here. So take that opportunity to travel it and see it and experience people from different walks of life and connect with people and understand that, you know, they're pretty similar to you. You know, a lot of them have fears, a lot of them have goals, a lot of them love people, a lot of them have families. So everybody wants very similar things in life. most of it centers around happiness. And it takes that mentality of what am I doing with my life and throws it out the window, because it's like, well, shit, I'm living the life that I want. I want to make films, and I want to travel, and I want to, I want to grow as a human, like a person. And all these things come from traveling and following and finding that passion. Some things that if you don't do it already, I think you should really think about meditation and self-awareness, study some things about those if you don't do it already. Being from Kansas, when I hear meditation, when I first thought about it, I was just like very naive to it, because it's like, it sounds like some like hipster thing, and so I didn't really read about it for a while. And then eventually when I started doing it, I understood it. It's understanding how to see moments in your life when you, instead of not paying attention and having your headphones in and walking through campus, if you had your head up and your headphones off and you just listened and you felt air and you felt the sun and you watch people move, you watch people laugh, you're really experiencing life. Like you're actually, one day you might make a movie about college, right? One day you have to recreate people walking through campus. Like, what does that look like? Pay attention to it, right? Or if you make something for Kansas State University, they want you to make it look beautiful and grand, and you attend it. So you should you already know what it feels like when there are people walking through that space. So you pay attention to it, and then you journal about it. You talk about it. You write it down. You say, this is how I felt today, and I think it's because of this. And you start to becoming in tune with your journey. You start to become in tune with your life. You're actually living your life. You're instructing your life. You're controlling it a little bit more. And a lot of people search for that control. And I think it's therapeutic. I think it feels good to be able to talk to yourself and spend time with yourself and to be alone. I think those are it motivates you, because you're the only one that in the end can make decisions for what you want, right? No, even myself, trying to motivate you to do this, you have to make that decision. I'm literally telling you things that I experienced in my life. I'm trying to help you avoid misery, you know what I mean? And depression and all these things. And if in college you have that time to experience these things, you have the time more than you think, right? If I had the same mentality now if I had the same mentality as I do now, back in college, I bet you I had better grades. I bet you I would have learned a lot more. And I bet you I probably would have done a lot more in college, but instead I did it like probably 20% of the time, my passion, maybe even less. It's like, because I only found that much time for my passion, right? I only gave it that much time. Instead, I went to class. I hung out between class, talked with my friends. Oh, I got an hour to pass. Let's go hang out and let's talk. You really talk about nothing. You talk about people, which is bad, right? To talk about people, you want to talk about things and life and all this stuff. Unless you're talking about like, how someone made something, it's not good to gossip, I should say. But those wasted hours could have been dedicated to you learning how to do something that you want to do. And you start to see it like that as you pursue your journey. Every waking hour is important to you, right? And every time you spend your hour on something, it should be in relationship to your goals, right? You shouldn't be doing stuff that has nothing to do with your goals at all, right? If your goal is to have a family, you spend time with family. If your goal is to have a car, you're gonna work as many hours as you possibly can to get money to get a car, right? But if you're trying to be a great photographer, you're going to study as much photography things as possible to understand how to use the camera and how to balance light and to how to frame people, and it becomes an obsession, and it should be an obsession for you. It should be something that you talk about often and something that you tell people about, because it puts this pressure on you to execute, right? I'm going to be this. Okay. And then the next day, I'm going to be this. Okay. And eventually you start to really believe that you're going to be this thing that you're saying. And you're like, no, I'm really going to do it. I don't care what you say. Like, say I'm going to fail. All right. It doesn't even bother me. People come up to me and say, I'm not going to do well, or I'm going to fail, or it's not going to work. It literally just like, okay, cool. I have no problem with you saying I'm gonna fail. It doesn't even piss me off. It doesn't move me. All it does is like in the back of my head, I know 100% whatever I set my mind to, I'm going to go achieve and get, no matter how long it takes me to get it. And as I learn and become a stronger person, because I'm attentive to this stuff and self-aware, then I cut down the time that it takes me to get something now, because I understand how much time I should be dedicating to it to actually achieve it. Your life will change, and you'll see that in 1 year, you can do as many things as you want to do. You can learn a whole nother language in 1 year, easy. You know, you can't, but it's up to you, right? I traveled to like maybe 4 or 5 countries, probably all of the US. You know, I've lived in some of the major cities for a decent amount of time to experience them. I've met all sorts of people. These kids that are in this photo with me, I went all the way to Bangladesh, and I'm in the furthest south, the most southern part of Bangladesh. There's no land between this beach and Antarctica, so that's how far away I am, right? And I'm looking at Google Maps and I'm thinking, like, I didn't take it out for a long time because it doesn't work. And you have to buy like a chip card. I'm sitting there. I eventually got my, card so I could turn my phone on. And I look at the map. I'm like, whoa, you know. And I start to realize that my dreams, everything that I wanted to do, had came because I just pursued my passion, right? And that's all I cared about was a passion. Didn't listen to nobody. You know, I had a select handful full of people that really believed in me. I had a lot of people that didn't, you know, but the beauty about it is that it shouldn't matter if they believe or not, really. It should matter if you do. There's some other things I talk about in here, like watch movies that relate to your topic. But that was like a whole, this is like for a different slide, so you could ignore that. The Take the Risks was essentially the story that I told. Is like this idea that you can't just be stagnant. You can't go like this. You always have to be going like this, right? At some point, you'll get exhausted and you get tired and you will plateau a little bit, but then realize it and push yourself to go back up, right? It's okay to take a break. It's okay to breathe and come up for air for a little bit. Like, I'm not sure if I want to do this. You know, it's like you'll feel like that sometimes. It seems ridiculous, you know? And then you have to quickly snap back. You're like, man, I want to cuss so bad, but like, it's like you basically cuss yourself out. You know, it's like you basically call your own bluff. You know, you get angry with yourself. You're like, I know I could be better. I know I can be better, right? And you just say, get up and go do it. And then you do it. And all of a sudden you realize, well, that wasn't so bad, you know? And you survive it. And you keep surviving and you keep surviving and you keep surviving. And you're like, well, man, I could do anything really. You know, if I really want to learn language, I'm gonna learn language, you know, and that's how you should feel. If I want to learn about filmmaking, if I want to be a filmmaker, all right, well, just go do it, you know, just start doing it and it will happen. All right, so that is all for today. I would like to take
awesome.
If you guys have questions.
Thank you so much. There's definitely a lot of really good insights in there about finding your inspirations and how to kind of creatively organize your shoots to make sure you get everything you need. I guess I'll go ahead and start out the Q&A with a question I had. Mm-hmm. At what point in your life did you kind of discover videography and find that you had a passion for it?
I was like 16 when I was in high school and played football. My dad, he videotaped them. The people that used to make those tapes didn't make very good highlight reels. So he wanted to edit one together. I went with him because he wanted me to go and watch. And, you know, we're sitting in an actual editing bay with like a real machine. And it looks like it's from some, you know, sci-fi film. It's huge. And you have to do tapes and everything. And so because we couldn't afford for him to edit it, he allowed us to use his editing machine and let us edit it. And he gave us a better deal, right? My dad started doing it, but he kind of struggled, I believe. And he just let me do it. Or maybe I really wanted to do it. I can't remember which one. It's probably a handful of both. He was probably getting pissed off. And I said, let me get in here and show you how you do it. And I got in there and I just started playing around with it. And I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. So I wanted to be an ESPN editor, so for a long time, I just focused on sports. That's kind of how it all started. Yeah.
Awesome. Also, anyone else in the Zoom call, feel free to speak up. And then, Kylie, do you want to monitor the YouTube questions?
Yeah, I have some from the YouTube. I can start with one of those. Cool. So Taylor asks, she says, as someone with very little experience but wanting to do videography, what is your advice on where to start as a beginner? What kind of projects did you begin with?
I think the coolest and easiest things to start with are like promos for people, especially if you don't want to get into music videos, because like music videos is like a whole thing. Once you get into it, then you're going to probably do it for a while because it's fun. It's a fun thing to explore and be creative. But if you want to do more than that, like short films or commercials, promos are really great to start with. Basically, if there's a fraternity on campus that needs to sponsor or talk about an event, sorority, whatever, or an organization, a nonprofit, it doesn't matter. You're probably going to work for free. You're probably going to give up your time for free so that you could create content for yourself. You start doing that and you just do it as often as possible. Make things with your friends, write scripts and go shoot them. I think those are fun. Start a YouTube channel, make very simple videos, just do. It's essentially just starting to do it. Promos are really good because you have to tell a story like about a product or a brand, and essentially do that with damn near everything.
Awesome. And then another one from the YouTube was from Apparition Media. They said, do you have any advice for editing or producing remotely? They said they find it hard to collaborate solely by emails, and I feel like not feeling a production's in-person vibes harshes the creativity. How have you managed doing that remotely?
Right. So remotely is something that we're actually having fun learning too ourselves, because like this with coronavirus and COVID, it's kind of forced people to start working remotely. Honestly, what I see a lot of people doing is setting up live streams of their productions, and they find a service that can tap into like a Blackmagic or a DSLR or the A camera, and they start showing you the feed. And so you could literally just sit there and watch the feed happen and then direct them through your Zoom. That's one way. If you can't afford that way, then I think you gotta still get on some kind of Zoom or FaceTime with them. That's the cheapest probably way. And then you just watch and you talk to them about it. Be very specific with what you want, and follow up at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. Don't bother them through the day. And this is super important. Beginning of the day, end of the day, and let them do their job.
Awesome. Okay. So another question that we had was, what would you give as advice for graduating seniors and students as they begin looking for work?
I kind of made the mention to it a little earlier about finding your passion, deciding on what you want to do. In the end, if you don't know what you want to do, you should just try everything. Like there's a really great advice that if you don't follow him, Gary Vee gives, which is like you spend your 20s and 30s to pretty much just do whatever you want. You should explore and live life and do all these things that like you try to find what you want. I didn't really know what I wanted to do early on, so I did everything. I did wedding videos, I did promo videos, I did a lot of music videos, mainly music videos, but I tried my hand in other areas, and I decided I didn't like those areas. I was like, this is not that fun for me. I could have made a lot of money in wedding videos, but I decided not to because I felt like I would just get stuck there. For the most part, I would just try as many things you can, try every position you can, try to get on sets, Kansas City is a great market to get on sets. You know, if you're in college, then go to your media department, like Dole Hall, for instance, and you ask them to be on their set as a production assistant. You know, get involved in these auxiliary groups. Those are other ways too.
Great. Okay, we have another question from the YouTube. They say, what was the most challenging project that you have worked on?
Probably the most challenging project that no one has seen before is when I went to Vietnam and shot this like skating documentary, but that's not out, so you can't really see it. But that was the hardest one that I've ever done. But in terms of like stuff that's out and that you can see, I would say Rockstar was pretty hard. It was a hard production because we got rained on, and we shot through the rain. We had like 3 days out in the heat. It was hot. We had a very small crew, and we had like a lot of ambition to get something really big done. And so that to me was a difficult production because of that. But we had fun doing it. Mm-hmm. There's other productions that all productions are always a little bit hard. They have their own issues. You know, they have their own things you have to overcome. But I would say in terms of results, Rockstar was like a really amazing production that I'm super proud of, but was really hard to do.
Awesome. Okay, I have another one, unless anyone else wants to pop in. But one of my questions was like, what would you say was your biggest challenge when you were growing at the beginning of your career, and how did you overcome that?
I think the biggest challenge is financial freedom. You know, financially earning enough to make what you want happen. There was so many times where I didn't make a lot of money, like made almost nothing, you know, and there'd be months where I wouldn't make anything, and then other months where I'd do really well. And in the beginning, it's like this for freelancers until you really find the market that you're trying to tap in. So that was the biggest challenge of like finding the steady income to help you continue to search, right? And that's why I said it was like it's like a lonely journey when it's like that, because people don't want to mess with you if you're not making money. People don't want to help you out if you're not making money, or they don't see the potential of what you see. So financially is like it's like the hardest struggle to overcome. But I would advise people nowadays that they just need to work and reach out and network a lot, connect, and actually work on set more often than be the freelancer that does everything, that makes the video, that writes it and produces it. That was really great for me. And I love the fact that I did it because I learned a lot of positions and I became who I am now. And, but I think you could do the same thing by just getting on set, like really, really get on set, earn income off of lower positions, and then learn filmmaking from there.
Hi, I'm Brooke, and I had a question about, so something that I think I always struggle with is like creative block. And I was curious of how you handle when you're kind of in like a creative funk or like block for like more than like a few days. Mm-hmm. And definitely when you're trying to like get a project rolling.
Yeah, like it's funny you say that because I'm working on a project right now that I had been thinking about for a couple of weeks, and I've been listening to the song, and I've been like, I had an idea very early, but I just didn't trust the idea. A lot of times it's like you're second guessing a lot of your thoughts, right? And a lot of times what helps, in my opinion, is after you have obsessed about it one day, try to do something fun the next day and kind of release your mind from thinking about it. And something special will happen, which is like the creative, like the procrastination pays off. Everything just starts to connect when you stop paying attention to it. Like go read a book, go ride a bike, go exercise, watch a movie, go on a long walk, journal. Like all these things help. So whatever is your pastime, do the pastime, right? Have a couple drinks with a friend and talk about it, right? Invite someone else that has nothing to do with your idea to come listen to you if they and see what they think, and they might help guide you to the direction that you want.
I had another one. One of my questions, what would you, oh, sorry, is someone else going?
No. I said, I called you. I thought it was Brooke again.
Oh, sorry. So what would you say is the most valuable or transferable skill that you've learned in filmmaking?
Controlling your emotions. For sure, controlling your emotions. It helps you in all aspects of life to be able to have someone yell at you and you not react, and to focus on how to approach the situation calmly is something that happens in all avenues of life, not just filmmaking. You know, people get angry with each other. You know, there's the opposite of when people, you know, when people give you praise. There's the opposite. There's praise, and there's also you know, anger, and both of them are detrimental to like how you're gonna work. If they praise you too much, it makes your ego inflate. It makes you it makes you lose track of what your true intentions are. So you gotta not think about it, right? If they talk bad about you, or you feel you know, sad, or you know, you feel you know, upset about something that's going on in your life, and you let that control you, you know, when you're on set, for the most part, it's going to throw you off. You're going to be thinking about it. You're going to be making bad decisions, you know, and you're going to let something external affect the way you move. It's the same thing when you're trying to talk to a friend, go see your parents, you know, driving. When you're doing things and you're upset or you're bothered, you act different, right? So controlling your emotions and acting the same way as you would as if no one was in the room and you had all the time in the world to make that decision. You have to make and be calm in that same situation when there's a high pressure one on top of you. So that is by far something that so many people struggle with. Like, I watch them get upset. I watch them get defeated. I watch them pout and let their ego take over. And all of a sudden now they don't want to do the job, you know? Well, if they control it and become a better person, they finish the job and they overcome the obstacle, right? So control the emotions. It's not easy.
I've got a two-part question here.
I had this bad lighting the whole time. I had this window right here.
So this two-part question. The first is, what was your favorite project in the past year? And then the second half is, what's the biggest limitation as a small production company?
So what's the best project in the past year? And then limitations of a small production company.
Yeah.
There's a few productions that I really am proud of. A few that are not out yet, and then you know, I'm really proud of the Polo G one we did. I'm always proud of the things that we do with DaBaby. I feel like again, Rockstar was one of my favorites because it was just such a special thing for me to see our team grow and do something really cool in a time that was where the world was very defeated, and it felt good to know that we can persevere through things like that. Polo G's, the Martin and Gina video that we did, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's really cool. We recreated the Martin set, which was really cool. We took inspiration from it, and we like changed things about it, but it feels like the real set, you know. That was a really cool thing to watch happen. Yeah, those two are probably the top two of this year. And then what was limitations of the small production company? I would say it's trying to make sure you can handle the business that's coming in from the great work that you do. Like, when you do good work, you get recommendations and people keep coming your way. but it doesn't matter if you can't control the business in that sense. Like I mentioned earlier, the things that I've been learning about it, it's like trying to take on the influx of work and make sure your quality doesn't go low, right? You got to maintain the quality and pride and the energy and the love that you have in your videos as you increase more work. So those are some difficult things to overcome, but it's more about letting go and trusting the people around you.
Awesome. I have one more question. I read a interview that Real Goats did with Complex last year. And then you guys kind of talked about how on some of the DaBaby shoots, a lot of the ideas that you were having kind of just came up fluidly during shooting. And you talked about this a little bit in the presentation, but kind of is that your preferred method of doing things, where you just kind of fly by the seat of your pants, come up with these really great ideas while you're doing it? Or do you prefer more the sitting down, planning everything out and writing it all out?
You know, the last few productions we've done, we've sat down and wrote them out and we planned them out properly. And I like both. You know, I think what I just told you guys about the whole creative run and gun process, that those points is basically the combination. You know, the things that I was doing back then, I could have, some of this advice I could take, you know, for when I was doing that, you know, a year ago, just a year ago. And it's because like, I love coming up with ideas on set, but it shouldn't be the whole idea. It should be pieces of the idea, right? You're doing a scene that you planned out, and all of a sudden, because you're in the moment, you come up with an action or a line or a camera movement that you didn't plan. And that's kind of like, you're taking a lot of weight off your shoulders in terms of like, you don't have to figure out the big bulk of it, and you're finessing it, fine tuning it, and having fun with it a little bit. You know, because you're not worried about, oh, what am I supposed to be doing? You're more worried about like, okay, now I can actually watch the image because I know what's going to happen, and I'm going to make it better. You know, I'm going to work with them and make it better. And that's the time that you spend on it. So when we were doing all that stuff on set, you know, DaBaby is an amazing artist. He's by far one of the best, hardest working ones that I've ever worked with. And he'll continue to be that way because of his mentality. And he gives such good feedback and such good collaboration that that's the energy, you know, that's what you want out of people when you make things. You want them to tell you, you know, I don't like this, or this is cool, or this is not cool. And that's why I talked about being honest. It's like, well, you throw out ideas, right? And you come up with ideas, but is anybody going to give you feedback? If no one gives you feedback, then how do you know it's not really a collaboration. It's just you doing. So he always has been really great at coming with an idea or having some sliver of an idea, and then me, when I'm telling him, he gives his feedback. So I think both things are really fun. Someone asked me that the other day. I think I'm gonna try to go back and do some run and gun ones just to see like what I could do, but I won't do it often because it's like really dangerous to do. You know, it's not really smart to do. So, but in the early stages of like going out and you have no budget, like it's definitely the way to do it because it feels so original. You still got to have some plan. When we go into like Shug or Walk Texas Ranger or Minivan or Babysitter or you know, Pony, all these videos that we did early last year, we still had a concept, right? There was still some concept there. We had the things that we needed, but maybe the scenes weren't fully developed, like what was going to happen in the scene, and we would develop that on set. So yeah, have a plan, people. That's all.
Awesome. I don't see any other questions coming in. Kylie or anyone else in the Zoom, do you have any more questions?
I don't think so.
Alrighty. I think we'll start wrapping up then. Thank you so much for coming by and chatting with us for this last almost hour 15-ish. Is there anything else you want to kind of wrap up and say, or?
Yeah. Well, I want to say I appreciate you guys listening to my babbling and my conversation, because it's something that like I always try to make sure people understand that you know, this is just what I experienced, and this is the things that I went through, my problems and my solutions, right? And so they're going to be different for you. You know, they're not going to be 100% like my journey. Your journey is always going to be different, and your peers' journey is going to be different than yours. You know, think about just your internal family. You know, if you have siblings, they all do different things than you. They all have their own things they want to do. So, you know, don't be too upset if your friend is ahead of you. You know, just know that you're going to get there one day, right? So don't allow peers to be reasons why you're not doing something, or not learning about something, or not being passionate about something, because it's always there. And you guys at Wildcat Watch have a great opportunity to push yourselves internally to do great things. When you have a team and you're communicative with it, then things start to happen that are really beautiful. So I would say just keep being positive about your journey and believe in it, and don't let someone disrupt it. That's it. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming by. Reminder to anyone in the YouTube chat, if you're an alumni of K-State and you have a cool project you want to talk about or anything like that, definitely hit us up. We'll see everybody later.
Peace. Thank you, guys.